This is CBC Vancouver News.
Alcohol and speed may have been a factor in this collision.
Tragedy on the water. A boat crash claims the life of a child and leaves another critically injured. Also, security measures ramped up as thousands of people flocked to Commercial Drive for Italian Day. Plus,
they're here and they're walking for all their friends.
small steps, mighty strides. Families and kids lace up their sneakers to raise money for BC Children's Hospital. Hello, thanks for joining us. A day on the water ended in tragedy Saturday. One child is dead and another is in critical condition after police say the kids who were tubing at the time were struck by a speedboat near Kate's Park in North Vancouver. As Leanne Yu reports, speed and alcohol are now being investigated as factors in the deadly crash.
Around 6:30 Saturday evening, a harrowing incident unfolded within eyeshot of this busy park.
North Vancouver RCMP received multiple reports of a serious collision involving a speedboat and two children on an inflatable tube being towed by another boat. It's alleged that a speedboat traveling off the waters of Kate's Park struck the two children on the inflatable tube.
Police say an 11-year-old child was killed. A second child was airlifted to hospital and is in critical condition. The two kids were not from the same family.
The boat operator of the vessel that struck the inflatable tube is currently in custody.
Mounties say alcohol and speed may have been factors in the crash and confirm a breathalyzer was not administered on scene.
There's a number of ways to charge or investigate this incident. An officer could make an observation and determine on his own observations that somebody could be impaired by alcohol.
The Kate's Park boat launch is open here again after RCMP closed it last night for investigation. As you can see, the waterway here is popular with boaters, especially on the first hot, sunny weekend of the year.
Many new boaters got into recreational boating right across Canada. And that's wonderful. But what that does is it also puts many more inexperienced boaters on the water at the same time. And with that can come incidents.
When the boat's coming in from that side, it's when the kids are in the water, it's really hard to see what's in front of you.
Locals say this waterway is a known problem area for speeders and people without adequate boat safety knowledge.
In the inlet, there is a speed limit. But I feel like the average pleasure craft user believes it's only for commercial use.
Especially around the dock, you have to go very slow no matter what. They put a speed sign or not, you have to respect, right? The boat is coming and go, right?
Jen Thomas is chief of Tsleil-Waututh First Nation, where Kate's Park is located. She's calling for stricter enforcement around Burrard Inlet.
It's one of the last free boat launches in the Lower Mainland, and these waters are so popular. This community is only growing, and that's all you see is boats. So I would like to see more enforcement.
In a statement, the mayor of the District of North Vancouver says, "I'm shocked and saddened by the awful incident that occurred in Kate's Park. My thoughts are with the family and friends of the young victim at this incredibly difficult time." The RCMP is urging witnesses who may have seen or have video of the crash to contact them. Leanne Yu, CBC News, North Vancouver.
The BC Wildfire Service says the Pocket Knife Creek wildfire in the province's northeast has merged with another blaze, increasing its size substantially. It says the fire is now more than 610 square kilometers in size. Today, the Peace River Regional District issued 2 new evacuation orders in areas surrounding the Alaska Highway and Bucking Horse River. It also issued an evacuation alert for an area west of the highway and north of Trutch. Drive BC says a section of the highway is closed due to the wildfire. Officials also issued earlier evacuation orders due to the Kiskana River wildfire, another wildfire of note near the BC-Alberta border that's about 130 square kilometers in size. The Wildfire Service says the third wildfire of note is the Summit Lake wildfire, which it expects will be growing due to winds and warm weather. Thousands of people gathered on Commercial Drive in Vancouver today for the annual Italian Day Festival.
I want to eat. I'm here to enjoy Italian food. I came last year and I made a mistake. I had a big meal. This time it's just lots of little things to eat my way across the 14 blocks.
Commercial Drive was transformed into a vibrant celebration of Italian culture, food, and music. This year's street festival came with ramped-up security measures after recent incidents sparked concerns over safety at public festivals.
At least I felt a little bit of anxiety. I didn't realize it, but then when you saw the barriers and the police, it just felt like, okay, yeah, everyone's conscious of what just happened.
Thought about it for a moment, but then I'd heard, the police department, the city have been talking about increased security, and I see that they've got the barrier things this year.
It's important to still come out and not give in to fear. It's obviously on our minds, but we still have to be together as a community and carry it with us, but not get not let it define us.
Vancouver police used cars, trucks, and newly purchased vehicle barriers to block nearby roads. Earlier this week, the VPD said 300 police officers are being deployed to events this weekend, including Italian Day. A minute of silence was also observed, paying tribute to the victims of the Lapu Lapu Day tragedy during the festival's opening ceremony. Thousands of world leaders, scientists, and environmental advocates have arrived in France for tomorrow's start of the UN Ocean Conference. The United Nations calls the threats to the world's oceans a global emergency. Benit Breach looks at plans to protect them.
When it comes to protecting the world's vast oceans, the UN says it's a state of emergency, and threats are growing. Finding solutions is the goal of this week's UN Ocean Conference in Nice. At the heart of the conference, a push to ratify the High Seas Treaty. It aims to protect international waters that remain largely ungoverned. That's almost 2/3 of the ocean, according to the UN.
There's been a major gap in ocean governance. There is no tool to put in place marine protected areas. There's no tool to do environmental impact assessments on new activities.
The treaty would allow countries to establish marine protected areas in international waters.
If we don't ratify the treaty, we don't have a seat at the table.
Canada, nestled by 3 oceans and the longest coastline in the world, signed on to that treaty last spring. Oceans North says the country has a long history in ocean governance and expects it to ratify it by fall. Talks will also center on threats from rising temperatures, plastic, pollution, and protecting marine life. Canadian researchers at the conference joining global voices for urgent action.
The impact of climate change on the ocean, that's a big one. And in this case, Canada is not lifting up because we still are one of the leading polluters in terms of CO2.
Threats to the ocean being felt coast to coast to coast. Here in BC, some look at more immediate action, like a beach cleanup.
So these kind of events are really great for bringing attention to these critical issues and to try to empower people to be those change makers, to be those agents of change.
Environmental groups like Oceanwise also watching discussions in France closely as the conference sets the tone for new priorities and calls for action. Benit Breach, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today, families and supporters laced up their sneakers to raise money for BC Children's Hospital, the only hospital in the province dedicated exclusively to kids. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, the Family Fun Run is marking its 40th anniversary.
Alicia Openshaw and her twin boys are getting ready to participate in this year's RBC Race for the Kids, an event aimed at celebrating BC's kids and raising money for BC Children's Hospital for the past 40 years.
They're here and they're walking for all their friends.
Openshaw and her boys have spent a lot of time at the BC Children's recently. as the twins have gone through 3 years of chemotherapy for leukemia treatment. She says she is grateful for the connection she has made.
When you're in that hospital and you're sort of secluded, it's nice to find like-minded moms that are going through the same thing. So I found this group chat that I think Krista added me to. And we found a whole community within that group chat.
For the event, Openshaw is on Team T8, which has been put together by Krista Gervais in memory of her daughter, who died from neuroblastoma in 2022.
When my daughter was on hospice, my brother asked her what he should get as a tattoo for her, and she looked at him and said, "A pink unicorn." So my brother now has a pink unicorn tattoo. I have a unicorn tattoo that she picked out as well.
And she's dressed as one today.
When you're going through childhood cancer treatment, you feel very lost and alone, even when you're being rallied around. So having other families and moms who are there, who know what you're dealing with, it's super important.
Now Gervais has 40 families on her team, who are today walking, running and wheeling their way to fundraise for BC Children's Hospital.
Over the 40 years, it's raised over $21 million. And those $21 million go to fund the most urgent needs at BC Children's Hospital.
With more than 9,000 runners expected for this year's race, organizers are hoping to raise $2 million.
It's just a small piece in a big bucket that we need more funding for better research, better care, better outcomes.
Funds raised will address critical needs, including research for childhood cancers, mental health programs, and other areas of BC Children's Hospital that need vital resources. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Nanaimo held its annual Pride Parade today with an estimated 10,000 people coming out to the Mafio Sutton Park. As Claire Palmer reports, this year saw a record number of parade floats and people taking part.
With a new parade route and a theme of louder and prouder, Nanaimo's Pride Parade lived up to its promise.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's really great just to know that there's so many people who know who they are, but then also so many people who don't, and it's all right. Pride can help with that, yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's really fun for everyone to figure out who they are. It's just a great thing.
Need to be loud and strong and just be proud of who we are, because it's okay to be different, like myself.
The energy was so palpable and vibrant.
We are your ferry workers, and for once, we're actually on time.
It was the largest edition of the festival to date, with 65 floats, up from 40 last year, and 78 vendors at the festival. And it couldn't have come at a better time.
Pride is still very, very needed, and celebrating Pride and the 2S LGBTQIA+ community year-round is more important than ever.
Semple says Nanaimo Pride does things a little differently. Instead of corporate sponsors, they only partner with local businesses.
We work with unions who have members who live, work, and play in our communities and are a member of the LGBTQ community. And we just try to keep it local, and we'd rather have lots of maybe smaller sponsors on board to help make Pride happen than a few key, big brand names kind of carrying it through. And we know that there's not always sustainability with that.
MGM Restaurant is just one of many local businesses that have thrown their support behind Pride this year. And they say it's been good for business.
Community places are where people actually spend their time. So it's important that the safe places are created within the local businesses and stuff like that, so people have a place to come and feel at home.
Festival goers say they notice and appreciate the difference.
It's a better idea for the community as a whole. It really makes both the town and the people in it feel a lot more united as a front.
For Semple,
it's overwhelming, it's heart-filling, and honestly, it just fills my cup.
Pride is just getting underway on the island, with major events planned for the rest of the month and into August. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
A new lift-accessible bike park at Grouse Mountain has opened just in time for summer.
We have a learning zone here, right to a really easy 3.5 kilometer flow trail. So it's a really good place to start for anybody who wants to start mountain biking or is interested in it. We've got rentals and lessons as well. But we've got things all the way up to what experts would be riding and things that you'd see on the North Shore. The really big drops and stuff like that as well. So and then everything in between. And we're really excited about it.
He says the gondola access makes this the only lift-accessible bike park on the North Shore. Toronto's Summer McIntosh made a big splash at the Canadian swimming trials in Victoria last night after she won the women's 400-meter freestyle event.
Keep your eye on the clock. 3:55, 3:8. World record again. 3:54, 1:8. She demolished it.
Yes, she did. The three-time Olympic gold medalist broke the previous world record by more than a second. At just 18 years old, McIntosh has now eclipsed the mark set by Australia's Ariane Titmus in 2023 at the World Championships in Japan. Well, the Abbotsford Canucks are going to the Calder Cup finals. The Canucks defeated the Texas Stars in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals tonight in a 4-2 win. Surrey's Arshdeep Bains had 2 goals in the game, including the empty netter to seal the deal. The final series will begin Friday in Charlotte, North Carolina. Still ahead, for a third straight day, people in Los Angeles have taken to the streets to protest immigration raids in the city. The Trump administration has deployed the National Guard and is threatening a full military crackdown. That's next. National Guard members are in Los Angeles, ordered by Donald Trump, and already there have been clashes with the protesters that prompted Trump's move. Katie Simpson reports.
A show of force by the National Guard troops now on the ground. Witnesses say until this moment, Sunday morning's protests had been peaceful. More rounds of tear gas sent demonstrators running. Officers with batons pushed back the crowds. Crowds ordered to go home as the president warned of a strong response.
We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden.
The people united will never be divided.
For 3 straight days, demonstrators have gathered to protest the Trump administration's immigration raids, targeting workplaces around LA, including a Home Depot. Some of the protests became dangerous. Vehicles and buildings were targeted, as were police officers, in these demonstrations that continued into the night. It would take police hours to clear the streets, the images prompting Trump to call in the National Guard, a remarkable move considering the governor and mayor didn't want the help, fearing it would inflame tensions. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth upped the threat, warning if the violence continues, active duty Marines will also be mobilized. They are on high alert, an option the U.S. president says he's considering.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order.
As the protests intensified, Governor Gavin Newsom pleaded with the president to rescind the National Guard order. LA's mayor saying they never should have been sent in the first place.
I was hoping to prevent this situation from happening. I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos.
Democrats called for peaceful protests while also denouncing Trump's actions.
We have a president who sat back and did nothing as people stormed our Capitol, viciously beat police. So for him to be talking to anybody right now about responsive law enforcement to protect people is hypocritical at best.
Some Democratic lawmakers in California are urging people to stay home, saying Trump wants conflict, accusing the president of wanting to test the limits of his power. If he deploys U.S. Marines on U.S. soil against U.S. citizens, that would be yet another test of presidential guardrails. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Here we have a live shot of Georgia Street tonight. I'll have your full forecast coming up next. All right, it is time now to take a look at our weather for the week ahead. Let's begin with a quick look at the fire danger map across the province, where we're seeing extreme and high fire danger for much of the province, so really dry conditions out there. And unfortunately, we're not going to see that heat going away anytime soon. Lots of heat for tomorrow, 33 degrees in Kamloops, 33 in Kelowna as well. On the island, Victoria, mix of sun and clouds and a high of 25 and 22 in Tofino. Heading into the Metro Vancouver 5-day forecast, 22 is our high for our Monday. Those temperatures are going to stick around for Tuesday and Wednesday. And then by Thursday, we should see a bit of a drop in those temperatures with about a high of 19 and 20, but still relatively warm. There is a new art show at the Old Courthouse Gallery in Kamloops. The 23 paintings are recreations of a downtown neighborhood with homes from the 40s and 50s that have since been torn down to make way for the city's tallest buildings. Shelley Joyce has more.
The hammering and drilling has been going on for 3 years in downtown Kamloops.
Well, this here is going to be a 6-story apartment building. It's going to cover quite a bit of the area on this side here.
City Gardens, a large-scale residential development, will include 2 of the tallest towers ever in this community of around 100,000 people. To make way for all of this modern downtown living, 19 homes had to be torn down or relocated.
There was more, I think about 3 or 4 that had a little more historical significance to it. There was even like a local mayor that I think lived in one.
The plan didn't go over that well with some of the neighbors. That's when local artist Debbie Lively picked up her paintbrush.
A lot of people were upset about the whole thing, but after talking to them and hearing that they were going to be painted and remembered, they were so excited.
Commissioned to smooth some of the ruffled feathers and cast most of these well-worn houses in their best light in their dying days.
A lot of them were in really bad shape, so I had to use artist liberty and creativeness to bring them back to life.
She took 1,300 photos of the houses in 4 seasons and spent hours painting plein air to catch the flavor of the neighborhood and meet some of the locals.
Now, this one always captured my heart for years. I'd drive by and go, I gotta paint that. Each one was filled with so much history and stories within those homes. And I kept thinking about it every time I painted these houses, that, who lived there, what happened in those homes.
This weekend, she puts down her paintbrush to show off the 4-year labor of love at the Old Courthouse Gallery. Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Kamloops.
That is your late news for this Sunday, June 8th. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, you can always head to our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Hope you have a great night.